Good morning, everyone. Good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another fine Wednesday morning. Welcome to another coffee break chat. I'm your host, James Jackson, he, they pronouns, executive producer, Late Thief Productions. Dealing with a couple little technical difficulties here on my end. Um, System updates don't always work the way they're supposed to. Did you know that? I didn't know that. No, I knew that. It's just that I didn't. Sometimes I get in the middle of like doing things and I forget that I'm doing something else. So I had a system update running and went to work and then got home and was like, oh, that didn't finish. Um, got a great show for you guys this morning. Got a great guest, and I'm going to try and get them on screen while I'm talking about this. I'll let you know more about themselves in a minute. But first, today's show. Let me pull that up. Opioid Crisis, Kensington, Fishtown, and medical malpractice. We're going to be talking a little bit about that. Safe injection sites, the mayor's race, remote crime, which, you might have been like, remote crime. That's crimes committed when you're not there, that you committed, or, well, that somebody committed and they're guilty of, even if they weren't on the spot. The Stop Cop City protests I want to cover a little bit again. And we have Meadow Perry with their Fringe show, Populence. So let me see if I can get Meadow on screen. I'm just recovering from not having the thing set up this morning correctly. Window capture. That's what I'm looking for. Ta-da. Okay. Sorry. Just take a sec. If you're wondering what I'm doing, I'm literally just recreating a video capture source because the machine that I use to capture video is the one that isn't working correctly this morning. And so let's just do that real quick. I guess easy enough to do when you're familiar with it. Would take me hours in the past, but oh yeah. 1 second. One more thing I have to do. And let me do it real quick, which is sign into Zoom on this other machine so that I can add a third person and join this show. Oh, come on. What a day. Anyway, let me just switch. Let's see if that works. Okay. Huh?
You were very still. I thought you froze.
Oh, no. Working feverishly. All right. And there you go, Meadow. Thank you for your patience. Welcome on screen. Everyone has now seen me problem solve in real time, getting Meadow on screen. Please introduce yourself, your pronouns, what it is you do.
Yes, my name is Meadow Perry, the Bubble Magician. I do magic and bubbles. I'm from Philadelphia, and I'll be doing a Fringe show on September 24th called Populence. I'm very excited to do the show, and yeah, that's me in a nutshell. I've been a musical theater performer all my life, and I fell into magic like 6 years ago, and it's been a really wonderful journey, and kind of finding a new performance avenue, and that's kind of what my show is about, is finding your dream, finding your sparkle. So very exciting.
Awesome. And so I've seen all I've seen of your show thus far is the promo pictures. It looks very exciting. Um,
Yes.
tell me a little bit about what bubble magic is, if so that anybody, if they don't understand from the description, at least kind of get a feel for what bubble
Sure.
magic is.
Sure. So, uh, I often tell people that bubble magic is really hard to describe because if you don't know what bubbles are capable of, you don't know. So I make bubbles do the things that you didn't know that they could do. And then I also infuse some illusions and some magic in there. So it takes it to a whole other level. I take bubbles outside of the box, as it were. And it's been something that's been taking me around the world in the performance avenues. I've performed at the Hollywood Magic Castle. I was just on the CW's Masters of Illusion doing some of my bubble artistry and bubble magic. And it's just a wonderful art form that's really rare and unique. And it's not something that you see very often. So I'm really excited, and I hope people really come out for this Fringe show because it's going to be a rare opportunity. I don't perform often in my own backyard. I travel a lot for performance and work, so the fact that I'm right here in Philadelphia is going to be really fun.
So where you're based in Philadelphia?
I'm just outside of Philadelphia. I'm in Orland, which is like this little town that no one's ever heard of.
Some of us
15
have heard of
minutes.
it.
Yeah, some of you have heard of it. It's the weirdest little island of a town. Because we're right by the train track. So you have to drive out and around to this little bridge to get anywhere. So we are literally like a little island. It's kind of funny.
That's kind of awesome.
Yeah.
What brought you into bubble magic? Like, did you hear about bubble magic from somebody else? Did you see it somewhere else?
Yeah, that's a really weird story. I was working as a princess impersonator for children's birthday parties, and I decided, you know what, I can't be a princess forever. So I started diving into the magic world, but I didn't want to be a clown, and I kind of wasn't comfortable in my own skin yet. So I created a fairy character, and just like a D&D character sheet, I fleshed out her whole history and really gave her this characterization like you would with motives and everything. And I had a friend of mine who said, "Wow, your fairy character, Meadowlark the fairy was her name, really belongs kind of at the Ren Fair." I made her for children's party, but she really was this standalone character. So I took her to the New Jersey Renaissance Fair and tried out performance. And I also got a tip from someone to do the giant bubbles. So I started doing that, and there was such a great reaction. It was the most photographed thing of the season, and they said, "Wow, you were just really awesome. We need you back." And I just said, "Well, I think there's really something here with bubbles because yes, bubbles are childlike and kind of give you this wonder, but adults, I think, are more fascinated by bubbles than children are sometimes because kids, they just want to pop the bubbles. They want to get in there, they just want to pop them. But adults, they see all the colors and the light diffusion and the light refraction on them, and they're shimmering and they're beautiful. And adults kind of just want to appreciate them sometimes and their beauty. So it became such a great reaction, and I decided, you know what, there's something more here. And I started researching and found out there's an entire world of bubble artistry. And now I'm part of the Association of International Bubble Artists. There's 120-ish of us worldwide, and it's a close-knit but international community and of bubble enthusiasts, and it's been really fun and geek out on not only performance but the science behind it and the chemistry and yeah, it's been a really great journey, and it's led me to here. So
I'm sure you guys end up with a lot of bubble puns and whatnot, but are there any that you actually enjoy?
oh gosh. I do really enjoy flirting the line of this is a clean show.
Uh,
That is probably one of my favorites.
um, so what what would you say is like your biggest impact with your bubbles? I mean, it's not to make a pun unintended there, but like what kind of impact can you have with a bubble show? What do you do that you feel makes a future impact on the audience that you are talking to?
Sure. Well, I think with bubble artistry, because it is so visual, you can combine some other elements with it. And like what I do in my show, I combine some really beautiful music. And actually, I have Alexander Savronsky from New York City coming in. He's an award-winning music director, composer, and a fabulous musician. He can play pretty much every stringed instrument in the world. And he's actually bringing this instrument called a cricket that's kind of a hybrid between a viola and a violin, and it's a beautiful instrument. But he's coming in and he's playing live for the entire show. And so we've really created this kind of um, really heartstring moments in the show, because there's some really intelligent script in the show, but there are also just beautiful moments that will be this acoustic live cricket, viola, violin music combined with the beauty of the bubble artistry with some intelligent lighting design, and it's going to create some really beautiful moments, and I think that's going to be very impactful on the audience. And of course there's themes of finding your dreams, and maybe sometimes what you thought your dreams were didn't work out and you found something new, and kind of the heartache that goes along with letting something go and finding something new. And I think that's a theme that transcends pretty much to every human being. We've all had things that we wished and we desired for, and they didn't happen, and we found something else that we're passionate about. And I think that's a very impactful message. Find yourself.
Where can folks find this show? We haven't talked about that. When and where
Sure.
can we find the show?
It's going to be one night only at the Philadelphia Circus campus, um, at the Philadelphia Circus School. It's September 24th. There's two shows, 6:15 and 8 p.m. You can find tickets on the Fringe Festival site at fringearts.com, I believe.
Hmm.
But you can always, of course, go to my page, meadowperry.com, or across any of my social medias, and you can find a link somewhere to find the tickets.
A link somewhere.
There's a link somewhere. You'll just look for Meadow Perry the Bubble Magician. You'll find your way there somehow.
Of course, it's just awesome just to browse your page anyway, and
Yeah,
just read all of the material that you have there. So and
absolutely.
take and check out all the pictures and whatnot. So yeah, highly encourage folks to go and get tickets from the Fringe site. We've posted the link in our YouTube chat. And Meg, if you get I'm talking to Meg, my associate producer. Meg, if you get the chance, please post that also on the Facebook chat, and Twitch folks and Twitter folks, so just have to come on over to Facebook or YouTube and get the link or read it off. It's a lot of letters and numbers, but um, so that OS install is going well now. It's the computer that sits over to my other side here, and I'm just watching it slowly do its thing. Anyway, yeah, meadowperry.com. Check it out. And so you're such a positive person, and you have such a fantastical and enjoyable and like hopeful show. I'm not sure exactly how to transition into today's topics, because it's it is one of the problems that we face here in Philadelphia, and I'm sure you're familiar with it. You know, being up in on your little island, you're kind of in the thick of the opioid crisis there.
Mhm.
And here in Philadelphia itself, it's been pushed towards Kensington and Fishtown. There's a innate what do you want to call it? Tension between
Mhm.
the gentrification that goes on in Fishtown and the folks that want to use Fishtown as a nice place to live, and
Yeah.
the needs of our neighbors who are experiencing a health problem that they can't deal with.
Mhm.
Um, how do we solve that? How do we balance that? I'm not exactly sure myself. It's a big problem. It's a hard problem to deal with. There's a lot of viewpoints on um, how to get to a place where we can deal with these things. And I invited a couple of guests on today who didn't take the invitation, but I really would like to hear from
Mhm.
some folks that are on different sides of this issue. So, of course, there's the idea of safe injection sites, um, and there's other ideas of how to get people um, into recovery, into a place where they can uh, get help for the medical problem that they're having. Um, where how do we balance that with like the law and order folks that like just want to see the people who are on their steps gone. Um, I don't know if and I don't know if you've seen the show before, but feel free to jump in wherever if you
Yeah.
have any opinions
Sure.
or thoughts. I don't. It's not a one-way conversation, so
Sure. Sure.
feel free to.
Uh, well, I don't know a lot about the resources that are available in Philadelphia, but I know here in Orland, we've definitely felt the impact, and we have like Narcan signs at a lot of the local businesses here that's available. Um, I think people who fall into the opioid crisis and needing help, um, they're really looking for resources, right? Like they need help helping themselves, and I'm not sure what resources Philadelphia has. I know that they have done a lot, to push things like the safe injection sites and recovery houses. And getting funding and grants for that is really difficult because you do have this sort of clash of people who just want that problem to go away without any real solution. They just kind of want to sweep it to Kensington or Fishtown, get it away from where we want to have, things. But these are people who are struggling and have real problems and they need help. And so,
Well, and then even, like, so even pushing for like safe injection sites,
mm,
we don't get, we get people who argue against safe injection sites in their, local community. We also, for what it's worth, get people who argue for safe injection sites in their to accept safe injection sites in their local community, like me. I had
yeah.
I had a big, I guess not big. It's not world shattering news, but I had a bit of a public disagreement with some old guard South Philadelphians who, um, you know, were rallying against safe injection sites here
Right.
in South Philly, and I live in South Philly, and I totally would appreciate a safe injection site here. That people who are nodding out on the subway or
Hmm.
you know, uh, stuck in the street, um, could go to, um, instead of uh, being on
Instead
the
of
subway,
being,
like shooting up on the
yeah.
subway or
Well, I think, yeah, instead of being somewhere where they're more vulnerable, I I think I can see both sides of it. I can see where the clash is because you don't want to be enabling a real problem, but also someone who's addicted, they literally they can't help it, and they need help. So it's like, do you facilitate them finding their way to hope and help, or do you just try to ignore the problem? So I think that's where the clash is because people have this perspective that safe injection sites are enabling the problem and making it worse, but it's kind of the contrary. If you're getting people in a safe place where they can find their way to addressing it, I think that that is better, you know.
so
Um,
I had this argument with well, a discussion. I wouldn't even call it
mhm,
an argument with one of the Republican candidates for city council, Sam Oropesa, and
mhm,
he owns a business and he's very well known in the Kensington community. Um, and he owns an office that's right on the park by Kensington and Allegheny,
mhm,
where a lot of the opioid deals happen. A lot of users are really in that area a lot of the time. A lot of homelessness is an example in that area. And we during this conversation, we talked about the goals. What are the end goals? And the end goals for everyone are the same. The end goal is that um, folks uh, folks who even are against safe injection sites just want not necessarily the problem to go away, but also care about the people
mhm,
experiencing the opioid epidemic and understand even that it's a medical issue that they need to
mhm,
they need medical help. How do we get this back and forth that we all understand this. We all understand, yeah, it's a medical issue. We all understand that folks can't just be left to rot in public.
Right.
Yes, we all understand that. Like, where are we missing that? Where are we missing that explanation that, safe injection sites lead to, healthcare?
Yeah. Well, I think because there's this like hard line, I think that a lot of people who don't really get it, see, and they just see, okay, they're doing this illegal thing, they're gonna go to jail. And they think that that's gonna take care of the problem of having like a harsh punishment. But there's like a middle ground, right? Like, um, because having such a harsh punishment also like begets more issues because then you're someone it's hard to come back. Like I and you know you need resources and you need I don't know. It's just such a tough perspective and I think some people
I would feel like some people weren't loved as or something. I don't
yeah.
know. Like,
Well, because I have some experience. I'm from the Midwest. I grew up in the Midwest, and my own mother had issues with addiction, and in the Midwest, it's not really an opioid crisis. It's meth, and there's a big issue and crisis with that, and it really is a person who gets addicted to something. They really can't help it. Like it's you know they it really is a medical issue. Um, and it's really such a shame that it's got this stigma and I don't know. It's just so hard to keep the humanity in it in these conversations because people like to just point to it being bad or it being negative, which it is legitimately it's an awful situation, but there is a human behind it and we have to care for these people and just like with any other health crisis um, they need help
yeah, and
and
I would love to talk to more people. Have folks on the show who have a vested interest in it, and
Mhm.
can like especially like the candidates for mayor, that kind of
Right.
thing. It would be really nice to see some of those folks come on and talk about it. Is also the folks who are in office, and working, in city council.
Mhm.
I'd love to talk to them. And it's very frustrating because, we don't necessarily get to talk to those kinds of folks all the time. And some of them, basically intentionally avoid this topic, even though it's one of the most important topics according to folks, who were surveyed about how they're going to vote. Um,
Mhm.
uh, I, I don't understand why people are so quick to avoid this topic. Maybe I think it's an area where we can have an apolitical conversation.
Mhm.
It's not really a political issue. It's not something that um, it just so happens that folks that are very uh, stringent in law and order, and like their worldview is all based around um, like a strong um, uh, what I mean, what would you even call that?
I think just having it's like a hard and fast rule. It's either it is or it isn't, and they don't leave any room for gray area. Um, it's
Yeah,
very very linear thinking, I guess you could say.
yeah, yeah.
linear thinking. Yeah.
But when you have a conversation with folks like that, I'm thinking of a conversation with Sam or conversation. There was an incident where a bunch of community members in Kensington were protesting the idea of a safe injection site in Kensington. Um, and the protesters and counter protesters actually had a conversation, and it was covered by local news outlets.
Mhm.
Not super well, but it was covered well enough that the idea that both groups of people were interested in the same thing
Mhm.
came across. Like both groups of people really just wanted the same thing. They wanted the folks that were experiencing homelessness and experiencing mental health and physical health problems to get help.
Mhm.
And not, it wasn't about, oh, they're experiencing these problems, therefore, they're committing crimes and they should go to jail. It was about, we want our community to be better, and we want, and everyone was on the same side. So why is the argument still there?
I think I think it's more about education because I think when people are very linear in their thinking and they think about a safe injection site, they're like, well, why are you just giving this to them? Why are you inviting them? And it feels like you're inviting um, people to this site, right? Um, Instead of pushing it away. It feels like you are enabling and condoning it. So I think that's the perspective. And that's not the case at all. Like you said before, it's better to have these people have a space that is safe rather than being vulnerable out in the street somewhere, nodding off. That definitely makes that person vulnerable to more crime. Um, but having a safe space for it also can facilitate them getting those resources to get better.
Right.
Um,
Exactly.
so
And like I wonder where that conversation breaks down. Is
yeah,
it before we have that conversation? Is it
I think so. I think there's a visceral reaction of like, well, no, we don't want the problem here. We don't want to control. We don't want to we don't want to invite the problem. So I think there's a breakdown between what's inviting the problem and it being controlled. Um, you see what I'm saying? Like
Yeah, yeah.
I think it's a breakdown of people not understanding that no, this is a way to sort of contain it and get those people help and bring them to you. Um, you know, uh,
Well,
I
yeah,
th
I
I think
mean, safe
I think
injection
that's the
sites are
breakdown.
definitely a way to
Yeah,
yeah.
I think it's a breakdown of education on the topic. Uh, and just the visceral reaction before you can even get someone to that point of knowing.
So then I'm forced to wonder, like how do we break that barrier? Because there's obviously, people who are willing to have a conversation.
Hmm.
And then there's people who they've already made up their minds. They've already
Yes.
decided. Where do we break that barrier? Like, are we not doing enough in the arts? Are we not doing enough in media? Where do we break through that barrier of disinterest or already decidedness um, to have that conversation to get it so that, yeah, I mean, I can see the other side of the conversation too. I can see
Hmm.
where somebody goes, oh, safe injection site. I don't want a bunch of drug users
Right.
just willy nilly sitting on, shooting up in a building next door to me. Um,
Hmm.
but what I get confused about is, if you already have the problem in your neighborhood, and,
Hmm.
don't get me wrong, drug use is already a problem in South Philly. It's already a problem in
Yeah.
Kensington. It's already a problem really all over the place. It's just, like these areas get highlighted. Um,
Hmm.
if you already have the problem in your neighborhood, how is, providing a space where people can go and be connected with resources a negative? I just
Hmm.
don't get it. I don't know. I get.
Well, I think there's also people with perspectives of being either preventative or reactionary. Um, there are a lot of people that um, are not looking at preventing the problem, but dealing with what is happening now. Um, and I think there's a breakdown between those two perspectives. Yeah, because it's the problem's already here. So you can't just try and prevent opioid issues or addiction or drugs or whatever. Um, and prevention is great, but also there's a real problem that is already happening. It's already, so how do you address um, kind of bringing those people back and helping them? um, and instead of just focusing on, no, we're going to prevent it. Well, no, it's already here. It's already happening. And getting people past the point of apathy, because for some of these lawmakers, that it isn't something that's in their backyard. It isn't something that they have a human connection to. And I see it with a lot of activism, because I'm really involved with uh, sexual abuse prevention and awareness and advocacy. And a lot of people don't want to go there. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to nothing unless it's happened to them or someone that they care about. So I think that happens with a lot of activism, and it's really sad. And how do you get people involved and to care? And I think that's a really good question.
um, it's unfortunate, and I think sometimes it comes down to um, the issues actually personally affecting the people um, who are once the issue is a person is a like actually touches them, or
Mhm.
somebody that they know, it becomes a lot different. And I've also seen where the issues, and this goes for a lot of things. Um, Issues are like it's like, how do I describe it? It's like, yeah, that's a problem, and these people should go to jail. But like, no, my cousin shouldn't go to jail. They're
Right.
not having the same problem. It's not, it's not the same thing. I mean, it's
Right.
actually exactly the same thing. Um, yeah.
Hmm. Or they're a good person. You hear that a lot. They're a good person. It's a shame. Um, and I think that's the humanness, right? When we think of a stranger, we don't care as much as if it's our cousin or whatever. Um, because we know that person. We have a connection and we've seen their humanity. And with a stranger, it's the same with like you pass someone on the subway, you know, um, when you think about everyone has something going on in their life. Everyone has, things, and it's different when you know someone versus a complete stranger. So, how do you get people to care about a group of strangers? And maybe this hasn't been an issue that has come up with anyone that they care about, So why should they care about it? And getting them to that point. I don't know.
Um, well, I mean, and it's interesting because it is even even for the people who say that it's not how do I want to say it? Even for the people who are somewhat disinterested,
Hmm.
um, like if you survey people what the biggest issues about the election are, it's still
Hmm.
like the biggest issues about the election. You know, if you ask people in the neighborhood what their biggest concerns are, it's still the biggest concern of in the
Yeah.
neighborhood. Um,
Well, I also, when you think of like elections, there's a dissonance between cities versus more rural areas. Because certainly there's opioid crisis and drug and addiction crisis in rural areas, like I talked about earlier. In the Midwest, there's issues. Um, but when you are specifically talking about that with some people, they feel far and removed from it. Whereas those of us who live closer to the cities and live in cities, if we are in like I go to Kensington and Fishtown often, and I see it. It's in your face. It's there. It's real. Like, so I think there's a cognitive dissonance for some people who don't visually see it also. It seems like this big problem that's on the cloud that we don't have to worry about for those people, you
well,
know?
yeah, that's always what the othering of, and
Yes,
I
the
think that's
othering. That's
what
a great way to put it.
bothers me the most about folks involved in solving the opioid crisis that come down
Hmm.
against like safe injection sites and whatnot is
Yeah.
the othering, the
Yes.
and I'm sure you see this in sexual assault victims too, like
Hmm.
the othering, the oh and victim blaming,
Yeah.
um, and saying that kind of. I suppose it's a psychological protection to say that
Hmm.
could never happen to me. There's somebody else. They're
Right.
not in my group.
Hmm.
At the same time, if you look around, the opioid crisis is so prevalent. You
Yeah.
definitely know somebody who's
Hmm.
who's been affected by it directly. Like
Yeah.
either been on an opioid prescription and had trouble getting off, or recreationally tried opioids and gotten addicted to them, or recovered from opioids, or in the middle of a opioid addiction,
Hmm.
and you just don't know because it's
Yeah.
not one of those things that comes to the forefront in
Hmm.
a relationship until you're catching them
Right.
you know
Yeah.
in the throes of it.
Right. Because there's definitely, just like there's functioning alcoholics, it's the same.
Yeah, there's functioning addicts, and there's
Hmm.
and as far as I've ever seen it, one of the reasons why I think it becomes more noticeable in a city
Hmm.
is because people who are suffering addiction don't just stop trying to be people.
Right.
They're still trying to go to their doctor, go to their appointments, get things done,
Hmm.
and
Right.
um, in a city like Philadelphia, you see those people, like you see people in and the more disconnected from a safe space to live
Right. Hmm.
that they become due to their addiction, the more they
Hmm.
have to live in public. It's like
Right.
um, when Botham Jean was killed, the whole the phraseology came out in the activist community. When you see when you're seeing a homeless person have a negative reaction, you're seeing them at their worst, but they're always in public, so you're going to see somebody at their worst when a person with a house can go home and like punch a wall if they need
Right.
to.
Right. Yeah. That's
Um,
that's
same with
a very good
folks
point.
who are having an opioid addiction. They become disconnected. Any addictive process, you become disconnected from your social network, your support network, and you become less and less able to live your life in private. Your life becomes more
Right.
and more public. So obviously, the negative things that happen in your life, more and more people are going to see them. And in a space like Philadelphia, you're going to run into those people directly. Um,
Right.
in the next couple of weeks, just so the audience knows, in the next couple of weeks, I want to talk housing a little bit, and homelessness, and I think these issues are quite interconnected. I don't know if anybody would disagree with that, but I think that we don't often realize how connected these issues are, and I wonder if, excuse me, I know there's no magic bullet, but I
Hmm.
wonder if there is a solution that touches on all these things. Um, whether it's housing or healthcare or um, safe injection sites, what have you.
Hmm.
I wanted to talk a little bit about the mayor's race. Um, I think these issues that we're covering over the next few weeks are they're all the top issues according to voters, um, and I think that um, they're important. I would love to, and I'm going to keep harping on this. The candidates for office, for the mayor's office, have not agreed to a debate at all. I think that it's important, whether you agree with people who don't believe like you, to have a debate anyway. Like, I would have never, really. You don't see the humanity of someone unless you talk with them and have some sort of personal relationship developed. And so it's easy to, just say, oh, that guy's a Republican, I'm not going to talk to him. Um,
Right. Without
but
othering.
and there are certain people I won't talk to. Don't get me wrong. There are people that are diametrically opposed to, like, like me even being alive. I'm not gonna, have a conversation with a Nazi and like
Right.
try and understand their point of view because I don't care. But then when you don't want me alive, I don't care anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, having a conversation about somebody who doesn't want a safe injection site in their neighborhood, that's a conversation. That's
Hmm.
something we can talk about. Having a
Right.
conversation about people who have different viewpoints on how to solve homelessness. That's a conversation we can have. That's something that we
Hmm.
can talk about. And all the most important issues, according to voters, seem to be things that we can actually have a conversation about. And I don't understand why. And I think it's a problem with modern elections that we push towards issues that are that there can't be conversations about. It seems like
Right.
we focus on issues that there can't be conversations about. There can't be a conversation about a woman's right to choose what to do with her own body. It's just not
Hmm.
possible to have a conversation. There's no conversation there. Either you believe
Hmm.
women are autonomous human beings with the right to decide what they do with themselves, or you don't. Like, it's,
Right.
you know, you can't have a conversation with a Nazi. Either you believe all humans are humans and, you know, worthy of living, or you don't. There's no conversation here. But these are the kinds of things that we push into the forefront of both media and you know, political campaigning. And I wonder, when do we get back to the things that we can have a conversation about? You know.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, these issues do worry me and concern me, and I do like to talk about them because, you know, like we had things like January 6th. We have
Yeah.
people, a very small number of people, but that are even in office, in political office, in high office, who are dedicated to quite literally destroying the way that the government works now. They don't believe that the government should exist. And that is their whole, like, belief system. Like, that's actually what they believe. And yet they're holding office and trying to influence the government.
Right.
Those folks, you know, it may be hyperbolic, or you may think of it as hyperbolic to say that those folks were led by and or championed Donald Trump, but it is a seemingly consistent narrative that folks that want somebody like Donald Trump in office also don't really care for the rule of law,
Right.
which is kind of ironic. At any rate, a bunch of the folks who were involved in the January 6th insurrection, and I think we can safely call it an insurrection at this point, since all of the leaders of the invasion of the Capitol were found guilty of seditious conspiracy. That's sedition. That's an insurrection. The leader of the Proud Boys at that time was Enrique Tarrio. Enrique received the longest sentence at 22 years for the crimes committed on January 6th. And a lot of people are interestingly trying to dissociate his actions from criminal intent by saying he wasn't there. He wasn't in D.C. on January 6th. By the way, he wasn't in D.C. on January 6th because he was ordered out of D.C. by a D.C. Circuit Court because he had brought ammunition clips that had his logo on them to sell to somebody in D.C. Yeah. Had the Proud Boys logo on one side, had his personal logo and name on the other side. And the cops arrested him, searched his belongings, found these ammunition clips. Ammunition clips in DC are illegal. All weapons, all guns are illegal in DC. It's a district, so they can have much stricter gun laws than the states can. Yeah, so he was ordered out of DC and supporting the folks on January 6th remotely. And so I mean, it came up in all of the responses, but I wonder how people think, like, mob bosses work, or
Yeah.
a lot of criminal enterprise is remote crime. Like, you don't necessarily have the criminal in charge showing up to the job site. um,
Right.
I mean, you can't do bubble magic remotely, but I'm sure if you could, you would.
Yeah, yeah. Um, I mean, yeah, that's definitely uh just because he didn't physically have a hand remotely, he's still just as guilty.
Yeah. Yeah. So, like
Like,
I don't it's one of the weirdest things I've seen, and I wanted to talk about that real quick. And then
yeah.
the Stop Cop City protests are still ongoing. There have been several somewhat successful actions following the arrest of and charging with racketeering crimes of the quote unquote leadership, the core group of protesters of Cop City. Um, and so this for those that don't understand the concept of anti-fascism not being a group but being just a thing that people believe. There's a lot of people who are anti-fascist and want to stop something like Cop City being built, and it doesn't take leadership to organize actions that do that. So you can arrest a lot of people and charge them with RICO crimes, but I hate to tell you, it's not a RICO crime when there's no organization. Uh, so. Um, yeah, I'm interested to see how this progresses. It'll probably progress a lot slower than the similarly charged Donald Trump case, charged by the same prosecutors with the same crimes. So we're now putting environmental and fascism protesters in the same criminal category as a person who fleeced the entire country for millions of dollars. I don't know. I don't get it sometimes.
Right. Yeah.
At any rate, that's all the news we have this week. That's all the time we have this week. Really, it's 11:02. I want to thank you for joining me. Any last thoughts? Any sum ups? I want to figure out a way to loop back to your show, but I'm having trouble at the moment
Um,
thinking of it.
a great way to loop back to my show is I think the overarching theme of all of this is to be kind always. Um, I take that from Cinderella, as pedantic as it sounds. Being kind always wins. So having a kind heart in everything, um, even when it comes to serious issues like the opioid crisis, being kind and thinking of others is kind of an overarching theme in my show. Um, uh, Having kindness and in addition to following your dreams and finding your sparkle along the way. If you give to others, they'll give back to you. So I think be kind always
Awesome.
kind of circles encompasses everything and brings the bubble back together.
And circle back another unintentional bubble pun, but
Yes.
yeah. Um, I really enjoyed the photos I've seen of your work. I hope to actually be able to get to your show. And I don't say that all the time, but I do. At least I'll try and see it, if not during Fringe, at some other
Totally.
venue. Do you have any other shows coming up outside of Fringe?
Oh gosh. I do have um so there's this great, if you don't know about this is in Philadelphia proper. There's a monthly show called Magic Above Standard. A good friend of mine, Lindsay Noel, and her husband, Francis Minotti, they run it, and it's called Magic Above Standard because it's above Standard Tap in Philly. So Magic Above Standard is a monthly show. I will be there in October, I believe. Um, October, it's always like the third. I'll have to get the dates for you, but it's like the middle of the month every time. And it's usually on a Wednesday. It comes back this month, September 20th. I believe. I'm not on this month's show, but October show, but you should go check out this month's show also because it's magic. So a lot of people don't know this. We have a plethora of really talented magicians in Philadelphia.
We do.
We do. Lindsay Noel, Francis Minotti, um, Eric Jones, um, Randy Shine, who is on this month's. So you should definitely go check out Magic Buff Standard. But if you're looking to see me and you can't see the Fringe show, come see me in October at Magic Buff Standard.
Awesome. Thanks so much
Yeah.
for joining me. And I'm gonna go to a one
Thanks
up
for having
of
me.
me outro the show, and then you can stick around if you'd like to chat. If you have to get out of here, feel free. But I'd love to
Yeah,
have a little conversation with you in a minute.
absolutely.
And you're welcome back on the show anytime. Obviously.
Awesome.
Thanks so much. Have a
Thank
great rest of
you.
your day. And thank you to my audience. I really appreciate you guys tuning in every week. You know, it's awesome to see people watching the show, getting things from it. If you like what you've seen, please don't hesitate to comment on any of our streams. We do see all the comments, not that we necessarily have the time or ability to get back to you about them right away. If you see an upcoming topic, we do try and post our shows a week in advance. If you see a topic that you're interested in talking about, please let me know, and we can get you on the show to comment about it. And if you've been a guest before, or if you are one of my regulars, feel free to join us on the Zoom anytime. It doesn't change, so you can always come on and we'll have you on and hear what you have to say. Hit the like button or what have you. We're on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. Live push is how we get out on Twitter now. So hit the like button or subscribe button on any of those venues, and you'll get notifications when we go live. And really hope to see you soon. Have a great rest of your week, everybody, and look forward to talking to you next week.